Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Tabs Patron, and I'm your host, and I'm joined by my co-host Fihliwe, and this is The Partnership. And today we have a really special guest. Today we have Nyakallo. Nyakallo, good afternoon, and how are you?
Thank you so much for having me over, Tabs. I'm fine. Yes, and I'm happy to be here.
We're also happy that you're here. Can you just tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and just a brief background about you?
So I'm originally from the Free State, Bloemfontein to be specific. What else does one mention? That's such a broad question, but I'm a graduate of the University of the Witwatersrand. I did my BA there, majored in industrial psychology. Whilst I was there, I was a student leader, very much passionate about female empowerment, leadership development, and the likes.
Oh, that's great. And Fihli will just introduce what we're going to be talking about today, and we can take it from there. So what are we talking about, Fihli?
So our conversation today is based on gender inequality, gender-based violence, and just anything that has to do with women. Since we know that our guest is very passionate about women, so the first question that I will ask is, as a South African Black young female, how do you feel walking the streets of South Africa regarding the safety?
Okay. This is a conversation that has been had so many times over social media, news platforms, over dinner tables, just general conversations with friends. And it's something that I'm very passionate about, like I mentioned. I don't think one can articulate the feeling of being female, not only in South Africa, but in the world. But focusing specifically on South Africa, it's a terrorizing feeling to try and articulate, because you're never safe. You never know who to trust, who to talk to, when not to talk to that person, when to leave, when to stay. And the reason why it's so difficult is because as human beings, we're social beings. We need relationships. And it sort of restricts how women can relate to the next person. It's not nice, to say the least. It's, to be very simple, it's not nice, it's terrifying. But females, in their tenacity and their strength, we live on.
That's scary.
Also, then the next question that I'll ask is, in a traditional home, right? We're always raised in a manner that makes you feel a certain way as a female. You are taught to be home earlier, you are taught to do chores, and males are always allowed to be free and do whatever it is that they want. So you grow up knowing that it is not safe for a female to be out late, but it's okay for men to come back late. And as a female, you have so many responsibilities on you, but they're not given to the males. Don't you think that's also a contributing factor to where we are right now?
Definitely. I think patriarchy as a system has facilitated the notion of not being safe in the female body. Like examples that you made, the fact that as a woman I have to be home earlier because it is not safe to be in the streets that are filled with men. You understand? Instead of teaching a boy child that you also have to be home at a respectable hour, or teaching them to be decent enough to relate with the next person as cordially as possible when they're walking the streets. The simple fact that when you see someone walking in the middle of the night, you can guarantee it's not a woman. You are definitely sure it's not a woman, it's a man. And it's constructs such as those that are really disheartening. And I think as well, it goes to show that we need to be re-socialized as human beings. The way we bring up boys and girls need to be changed, because they're feeding into systems that are no longer conducive for females to actualize and just be and be free.
So earlier on, I was reading an article, and so some lady mentioned that he still walks the same streets that I walk in. So it was a lady that has been abused before and violated by her partner, and she wasn't happy with the fact that the system is also seems to be against females, because the same person that burnt her is still in the streets walking, and she doesn't feel safe because this is the man that was supposed to be her partner, the father to her child, but she burnt her and her daughter, and the daughter passed away. So we see that also with like political, like people that have political power and financial power, they out there abusing women, and they never get this, like the system never serves justice for the ladies to feel safe. Rather, you find women dying instead of them having, like, knowing that when you report it to the police, something will be done. How do you think this can be challenged in us as women? How do we challenge it? Because you find that on Twitter we have the men are trash, we have all these things done, but the stats are still increasing.
There is no one-sided answer to that question. I think it's a series and a collection of serious interventions that need to happen. And I think listening to you, the scary part is you didn't even need to explain. You could have left it as he still walks the same streets, and as a woman, I'd understand. And I think that's the scary part about being female in our country. But to answer your question, I think things that can be done is obviously not necessarily having conversations. I think we're a very conversating generation. We love talking. But we need to actually change policies. You know, the things that inform how we live, change culture, change how we bring up people, change how we relate. Not only have conversations, because what we realize with social media is that we get in front of cameras, we say specific things, or we get behind our phones, we tweet, retweet. But how I relate with my partner the minute I put my phone down is completely different. And I think another thing that we certainly need to do is we need to put females in places of power. The only reason why men can get away with hideous crimes is because they still hold power. Capital is still in their hands. Political power is still in their hands. So they have the power that revolves things, and they're going to put systems in place that facilitate or benefit them. And we have to be honest, the exploitation of female bodies benefit men. That's why they continue doing it. So if we could have more females in those structures, I think we'd begin to see more change, because then those women will be able to put systems in place that will facilitate, that will, make it easier to exist in a female body.
And I'd like to ask, in the spaces that you've worked in and the experiences from those workspaces, would you say that men and women were treated equally, or men had more privilege?
I think that's a question we can all answer for ourselves, because it's a reality we all live. Like I said earlier on, patriarchy is the disease that plagues our nation. And not only our nation, the world still. In spaces that I've worked in, I've definitely seen systems that benefit men more. But I've had the privilege of working very closely with, and I choose this, I'm very intentional about this. I'm one person that likes aligning myself with female power. So if there's a female in a senior position, I prefer working there, because I know that the systems that govern that organization would benefit me, because I have someone who has walked in the same shoes that I have, sitting in a place that can make decisions, right? But you definitely get to see how it's so difficult when she has to relate to other men. I'm talking about senior individuals that I've worked under, myself included. For example, I was the vice president of BWA, Business Women Association. And whenever I'd have to, because financial power, political power is still very much held by men. So if you want to cause women to have power, you have to talk to the people who have it. So I'd have to relate with a lot of businessmen, and I'd have to constantly check myself. It's a problem that many women suffer from. You have to adjust the way you do things in order to be taken seriously, or in order for them to look past your physical appearance and give you an actual chance. It doesn't matter your academic background, your qualifications. Men will always probe. They're testers by nature. So, not even by nature, you've been socialized. Men have been socialized to be testers. So you'll see how that line of being professional and social is constantly trying to be blurred. But you have to assert yourself. And sometimes when you're in those places of power, when you are trying to assert yourself where men have free reign, you gain titles as a woman. Whereas if your counterpart was a man and he tried to do the same thing, he was powerful, assertive, he was a leader. But when you do it, the roles change, the titles change, you're difficult to work with, or you are nitty, so it's difficult, but hopefully when women gain more power, such things will change.
Okay. The next question I would like to ask is actually for both of you guys as females, is that I would like us to actually highlight all the issues that have led us to where we are in terms of how women are treated, specifically in South Africa. So I would like us to obviously highlight all the things. You already highlighted quite a number of things pertaining especially to what men do that has led us to where we are right now. And I would also like you to comment on what I believe is also a lying factor to where we are, is that a lot of women are they submit to men immensely. And you're right by saying yes, it's also because men have power, but then at this rate and stage, it's done like in a crazy degree of manner. And I say this for example to make you guys understand it, is that we have this thing of blessers and stuff like that. And yes, again, I'll highlight that you said men are the ones with power, so women will do certain things also just to get some sort of power and stuff like that. So you get situations like blessers and all of those things whereby women will submit themselves to being owned in a way. And when men feel like they own something, they treat it as if, you get what I'm saying? I don't have to even elaborate. So what do you guys feel about that factor? I'm just specific to that factor. What do you guys feel about that? Am I wrong, or there's certain things that I need to understand that play a role for that to happen?
You can go first.
So you asked two questions, right?
Same.
So I'll answer the first one and then I'll come to the second one as well.
Okay.
So on the first question, I think the gender traditional roles, they play a big role in that, because you find that how we were raised in families. Like for instance, with me, I always try to challenge every single thing that I was raised to believe. Like for instance, having to come back home early. For me, it's always been a problem, and I've always been very challenging of it. The fact that I had to switch on lights when my uncle is out there, I challenged it because I didn't understand why are we equals in the house, but I have to do more stuff, I have to come back early and all of that. Before I realized that it's not safe, I was challenging all these things because they didn't make sense to me. Why is it that we're not treated as equals?
Okay.
And also how you find that a woman must raise children, a man must provide, and men are associated with power, so they provide, they get like high job positions and all these things, but women get like the lower positions. A woman will be a cleaner, there'll be nurses, like all those things. I think they cater to the fact that they give men so much power, and that's what we have to challenge. I think it's the biggest factor that contributes. And also religion and our traditions. They also like play a huge role in gender inequality. And when coming to the blesser thing, right? I've also been in spaces where I allowed like men to pay for my things before. And I acknowledge that I gave them power over me, but I've always stood up for myself, because I feel like if you do something, you decide that you're gonna pay for my drinks, it's your decision. But now it doesn't mean that it should change how I act because you did something for me. You decided that I want to do it for you. So I also can decide that, okay, you did that for me, but I'm not going to sleep with you. So it's a choice thing. I really believe that it's a choice thing. As a female, you choose what is it that you allow. So I'm not saying that if you do allow to have a blesser, then you must allow them to treat you in a certain manner, but it is your decision.
And you, Nyakallo, would you say that you agree with Fisher? Because I would like to highlight something before you answer this. That what she's saying is that it's your choice if you want to allow the blesser to buy that stuff for you and stuff like that. But you also, as the lady, you're already conscious enough to know that if I allow any of this, it can get to that and that and that, knowing very well how things are going in society, exactly. So that's my question to you too.
I think I'm glad you raised that, and I think it's so healthy to have such conversations because it means we are willing to participate in the process of unlearning. I think where men get it wrong, or where the world has gotten it wrong, is that we interact on this process of bantering, that you give me, I give you. And I think that is so flawed, and social media has fed into that notion that if a man buys you, anything for that matter, the exchange by default is my body. And men have grown, because we're socialized like that, have grown, it's an unspoken thing. We don't even need to communicate it. Boys grow up seeing it, so then they absorb that, and that's what they live out. But I think that's what we need to crucially look at. It's not a banter system. I don't have to pay you in kind for your drinks. You stood up there by your own will, and you came to me to buy a drink. And we also need to interrogate, he got up because he knew that there's an exchange, right? And that is wrong. Don't come to a woman feeling entitled or having certain expectations. Articulate. We are adults. Have conversations and ask for consent. Do not assume. You understand? Because you didn't start this culture. Why are you assimilating it? If you are not the person that coined it, why assimilate a culture you didn't coin? So I think we shouldn't deal with women on a process of bantering. Her body's her own. You got up by your own free choice to buy the drink, buy the dress, buy the dinner. She owes you nothing.
My question again, I'll repeat it. I like that you put that in that way, so I have a better understanding also. I'm saying that I fully agree with you, but then for those ladies that know the space, yes, I understand what you're saying, that men, we shouldn't make it something that is norm now that we are making an exchange. In this state and time, yes, we acknowledge that this is how things are. We cannot shy away from that because we haven't fixed that. We haven't changed how things are seen. But then you as a female, you know how things are because that thing hasn't been fixed yet. Do you now also go to an environment whereby you know what can happen through these certain things because you're not sure what you're going to get, but then you know it's a 50-50 thing, this and that can happen. Yes, it's almost me saying now I'm limiting your guys' freedom in certain spaces, but then at the same time, things are so bad that unfortunately you need to be conscious in terms of the space you put yourself. That's why I'm saying, yes, it's hard for females to be accessible to certain leadership position in order to make their own capital and also buy their own things, but it's very important that you guys do stuff for yourself. So you don't have to be in that space now you're depending on someone to buy you drinks, because that is putting you in that situation whereby anything is possible.
Can I add something on it? I think what you're saying is similar to saying I must not wear something short or something revealing because a man will look at me and objectify me and end up raping me because of what I'm wearing. So I think these conversations must be had with men because you speaking to females, now you're limiting us on how we should act. But you're not going to the men and saying, don't have expectations and also allow people to be. Because now when you go out, you can't even laugh with someone because you're thinking, maybe if I laugh, he's gonna think I wanna sleep with him, So it's now you're saying we live in a democratic country. There's freedom, but women don't have it. Because now we must behave in a manner that accommodates men. We must behave in a manner that makes men feel comfortable, but we're not.
I agree with you totally. This leads, sorry.
Yeah.
You wanna...
No, but I was just saying, to answer your question, I think in as much as we address how uncomfortable men have made the existence of women, I think it's also crucial that we introspect and look at ourselves. Look, the limelight has constantly been shined or shone on women. So it's uncomfortable that we come to ourselves, but we have to be realistic as well. Women do have a certain level of, what's the word? Entitlement. But it's an entitlement that was fed by patriarchy. Hence why certain women will see to it that patriarchy thrives, or certain aspects of it, because we benefit. Like the fact that a man must be a provider. Women are the biggest benefactors of that rule. So we facilitated where we stand at an advantage, like at a bar, no, a man must lead and buy, you understand? Or when we are in romantic relationships, we call out things like girlfriend allowance. Are you at work? Do you need a salary to love someone? You understand? So it's things like that we need to question as women and unlearn. Or systems like mothers constantly pushing their daughters towards marriage when she lived in an unhappy marriage, rather than addressing her those needs, or how mother-in-laws treat daughter-in-laws. So we need to talk to women on how we facilitate patriarchy and how we've caused it to thrive. Because if we stand together, then we'll be able to change certain norms. Because I believe mothers raise sons, even though sons have external influences. But if a mother has more conversations with her son, and daughters are included in such conversations, then we can raise human beings that can exist with like a common kind of understanding of how can I relate to a woman, and a woman can know how can I relate to a man. And it can be beneficial for both sexes.
That's correct. That's very true. What I would like to ask next is that we all can agree that the problem, specifically to men, lies and steps down to when we are still like little boys, basically, and how we are brought up and things like that. What do you guys suggest should be done differently? Because I feel like that's when you can actually have an opportunity to make a change while the boys are still young and stuff like that. So what do you guys suggest should be done differently? Because like telling a grown-ass man later on this is how you should have done things, he's not gonna really change that much. That's why we actually struggling at this time and stage. So what do you guys suggest that we should do in order to change things, by obviously like instilling a certain mindset into younger boys while they're still young?
I think it starts with the treatment in the house. Like, treat kids as equals in the house, the girls and the boys. Don't have this thing of now the boy child must ask the female, please make me food, and then you expect the girl to wash dishes, but you don't expect it from the boy. So they should have the same tasks at home. And also something that contributes a lot more is it's television, it's social media, it's music. So it is very difficult for parents to monitor what their kids listen to, what they watch, the content they consume. But it's something that has to be worked on, because honestly speaking, we see music videos where you find the lady naked but all the men are dressed. So you see that from that you can see that women are objectified and men are, it's just normal. And then you see it in a lot of things, in series, in where you find men having multiple partners but the lady is like loyal to the partner. You see there that men have so much power. So it's very difficult, because everything has to change. Like, every single thing has to change, because as a parent you can teach something else, but your child listens to hip hop. So it's a bit difficult, but it's something that needs to be done.
What's your take, Ken?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Fihlu said. it's unfair to put the responsibility to change systems in the household only, because children don't live in isolation to their homes. I think it's changing the way gender roles has played out is a call to everyone, humanity as a whole, because artists need to be more conscious as to what they're feeding their audience, news, adverts, everything. People just need to be more conscious as the subliminal messages that they're sending out to their consumers. I think that will cause a great change. But also, I think I'm an optimist, So I think it's unfair to doom grown-ups, because then that means what future do I have? Because I'm still growing. I still live with men. I think for any revolution to be successful, we need double agents, we need spies, for lack of a better word, because you've seen in a whole lot of revolutions where the successful party had the best double agents ever. You had individuals that would go to Germany and go to another nation and act like, So men need to play that role for women, conscientized men that are conscious and woke to the struggles of everyday life. Being a woman, need to talk to their fellow friends. And even if it causes you to be unpopular, it's something that you need to do for the greater good. Because it's unrealistic to say, we're dooming our generation and the older generation. Who's raising the children? Who's raising the children? We are. So I think it's very important that men play that role for women, and also women that have access to male groups. I think we have a whole lot of women that have a voice among men. They also need to be on board and sing our song, to conscientize those men and not be perpetuators of patriarchy and toxic masculinity because it has benefited them. If you see a man doing something wrong, call them out. And also women, if you see a fellow woman perpetuating or feeding into the cycle of patriarchy, call her out. Because we've lived in this system for so long and clearly it's not working, and it has deprived the world of so much. Imagine a world where women and men were treated equally. There'd be so much development, so much innovation. But because of patriarchy, we are suffocating that development. So if we could have more individuals that play double agent, I think the world would be a better place.
Okay, my next question is, I hope you guys don't misunderstand it. It's not me running from the actual problem, which is men. But I also feel that this also plays a role in men, obviously, going on with this type of thinking and mentality that we have as men, and hence gender-based violence is still such a huge problem in society. Is that if I were to be even sexually abused by Fihliwe, for instance, and I went to the police station and I wanted to report it, not only the men or policemen or policewomen would give me a sense of like, did it really happen or something like that. It will be seen as like a joke. And I'm saying this, not only the men are going to see it as a joke, also the women working there. They won't believe me probably, ne? And if I experience something like that, yes, it's I must still have some sort of morals to tell me that, okay, if it was like this, they don't think that I'm speaking the truth. I shouldn't be obviously now going back like, okay, now I'm gonna stick to being like the core man who does this and this and this. I'm saying those little instances that are happening to a few men, because it is a few honestly, but those are usually good people, and when you experience something like that, it usually triggers something else and it makes you change. And you'll find out most of those people who have had these experiences like that, they end up actually going to extremes, and they actually become very abusive for their future partners or even current ones because of those experiences. And you need to understand, those experiences almost make it seem like now it's actually tolerated for a man to be the one who's abusive than the female. Do you get what I'm saying? So what is your view on that, and what is your guys' statement in terms of those people who work in those spaces? What can they do? Because that is also a lying issue that is obviously contributing to the bigger problem?
I think first and foremost, this is an uncomfortable conversation, period. Because it questions the core elements of who we are, especially as Africans. Like, I won't necessarily, focus on Africans, but I can speak more on being African because I'm an African child. I think every culture has those constraints, especially on the boy child. But as a disclaimer, I think hurt people.
Exactly.
So men who cause harm to women have been hurt, and I think to say that is not necessarily justifying their actions, but I'm sympathizing to the human being that was hurt. I'm not justifying his actions of hurting another, and I think as people, we need to do the hard work of healing ourselves and not punishing the next person you meet because of something that you went through in your past. And women have had this privilege because we are conversational beings. We love talking. So we've had the privilege of sometimes healing through conversations, healing through sisterhoods. Our social circles are less toxic than men's. When men will always say, where women are, there's always a fight. I think women are straightforward. If you do something that I don't like, I'm not going to pretend. That's who we are. Men have a sense of a higher tolerance level than we do. Even if you're not cool with that nchita, y'all will talk and act cool, or y'all will like brush it under the carpet and move on. Whereas as a woman, I'm like, I don't like A, B, and C. We're going to deal with A, B, and C. And then the next woman will say, but I don't want to deal with A, B, and C. And then we're like, okay, let's cut ties. That's how women are. And that has caused our relations with each other to be far more simpler. It might seem complicated to the outside viewer, but if Fihlo doesn't like me, I know Fihlo doesn't like me, so I won't be in Fihlo's space. But to answer your question more straightforwardly, I think we can't justify what our police system has become.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's wrong. We have blindfolded justice to feed and line our own pockets, to feed the system of patriarchy, femicide, and it's wrong. To the men that experience that, I'm not at fault of, not believing the stories. I think anyone who has the guts to say, I have been sexually violated, truly has, because it's not an easy confession to make. It's never easy to admit that. It comes with a certain level of shame and humiliation that no one deserves to admit out loud. That's the first thing that our police system needs to understand. No one would stand up and say, I have been sexually violated, just because. It's a humiliating statement to make, and unfortunately, it's more easier for women to admit that. It's very unfortunate because it happens more to us. But we also need to be honest with the fact that boy children lose their innocence at a very young age. Through conversations, through actions. And that is a form of violation. So parents need to talk to their children. Guardians need to talk to their children as to what are your children doing when they're playing outside. Because a boy can funnel with a boy. Touch a boy in a specific way that boy didn't appreciate, but because we're friends and boys don't talk like that, it's fine, I remember from my childhood we had games such as Mantwan. That's where most boys lost their innocence. That's where the first attempt of rape.
What is
Mantwan? Yeah.
Okay.
That's where most boy children lost their innocence. A form of rape happened in those dark rooms where we were playing as children because a more advanced child came and violated you. But because it's a game, you sort of hide it under this notion that this is normal, this is what we do. And in your secret place or in your room, you replay these moments and you try to hide the shame, and you normalize these behaviors. And you normalize it by going and doing it to someone else. So the next time it'll be a different girl. But now you know what that girl did to you. So you're going to do it to this girl. Do you understand how rape starts? It starts in those small, intimate places where we were playing as children. You saw something on TV, an adult wasn't there, and you're like, tomorrow, I'm the mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you do this to this boy child because it made you feel some type of way. And now this boy goes and does it to the next girl. And does it to the next girl. And does it to the next girl. Do you understand? We've cultivated a rapist. So, you know, it's not easy, even admitting it, because your question was, how do we deal with the admitting? It's not easy admitting it or rectifying it, but I think our justice system needs to come to the party. Women need to come to the party as well, understanding that men can be raped. It happens, unfortunately. And we need to sympathize with a human being that experiences such a level of gross humiliation.
And
can I add something on it? And I think also like the most important thing is to realize that men are also human beings and stop expecting them to be hard and to not feel certain things, because the reason men never come out with such things is because they've been expected to be hard and to not feel. So it's embarrassing for a man to say, this happened to me, because now everyone sees you as this weak, you know, and you find other men also saying, "Ay man, super weak," you know, and we laugh it off, but we don't realize the damage it's causing in the world as a whole, because every single man goes through that way. Even catching feelings, super weak, you know. So it's those things that make it okay for men to go through a lot of things, and you must
Nothing
just
is
take
done.
it because you're a man.
No, and even like what you just said now, Fitlo, even grown men experience rape, ne? And when they go in their social circle, it's something that's celebrated. She did that! Hey! She did that for you! Why do you feel bad? You know? So men also have, like if there's female rapists, men feed that culture of female rapists because they are celebrated. She can take charge. Hey, guy, you're lucky, man. She did that for you. You understand? So men are forced to downplay when they are violated, and it is wrong. If you feel like you've been violated by a woman, say it. Own your truth. It's unfortunate because saying I have been sexually harassed is owning a certain level of shame, you know. But if we can speak about it more and make women realize when they contribute to the rape culture, it will make dealing with the culture much more easier.
I definitely agree there. I definitely agree. And to conclude, what would you say? And I want you specifically just to give a message to the men, because that's where the core problem is, honestly. So, like, what would you say we can do like differently? Because you have mentioned a lot of things, but I just want you just to wrap it up and just put it into one thing, because we need to hear these things. We need to hear what we need to change, because it's clear that we are not really willing to conversate as men and tell each other this and that and that. But I feel like the more we get to hear it, we can't run away from the issue that we have in society. So what can we say to the men out there?
I think so many messages have been said. Men need to listen.
Yeah.
So much has been said. Open Twitter, read something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So much has been said, and it's so unfair to put the responsibility on women to educate men.
Yeah.
It's unfair.
True.
We're tired of doing it. Because in as much as I was born in a female body, before I'm female, I am human. And that's a concept men need to understand. Before this being that I'm sexualizing was woman, she was human. So the very same opportunities, the luxury of freedom, the luxury to exist, and it's unfair that we even have to call it a luxury. To exist as a woman is a luxury. Before I turn 13, 16 as a woman, I have stories of being sexually violated by a man. And it is unfair. You understand? So I think before anything else, men need to listen, men need to educate ourselves. It's not our responsibility to educate them. Before I am woman, I am human. So the very same joys or pleasures of life you feel you deserve, I deserve. And just grow up. Have the necessary conversations. Change. And if it means you need to sacrifice certain luxuries to ensure that your daughters, your sisters, your mothers exist in a better world, then be decent enough to make the change. You understand? Because men oftentimes forget that they are birthed by women. They forget that they are siblings to women. When they relate to someone that they deem a stranger, I am someone else's child, someone else's sister, someone else's partner, and I deserve to exist in a world that allows me to actualize happily. Happily. So, yeah, that would be my simple message to them.
Thank you for that. Thank you, definitely. I feel like you've said it all. Don't you agree?
I agree, and I think it's also very important for men to look within themselves, like account for all the actions that you've made, and like just look back and see if this was done to me, how would I feel? Like be very conscious on every single thing you do and see if it was done to me, would it be okay? Because men have double standards, so you have to get to a point where before doing anything, you're like, okay, if the favor was returned, would it be okay? Don't even think of if it was done to my sister or to my mother. Think if it was done to you, then maybe things would be better. Because I feel like men also don't look within themselves. They don't take time to introspect and see, have I been a good man? Because now you see that women are saying men are trash. Instead of saying, okay, let me look, what have I done? What have my friends done? People are so quick to say, not all men. Or I've never done that. I've never done this. But what have you done? Because it's as simple as how you look at a girl. So
I hear you guys. We as men definitely need to change. And Nyaki, now we're gonna go on and play a little game with you. It's a trivia question, and it has a couple of questions, and you need to beat 4. That's our top score so far in the partnership.
Okay.
And I'm sure you'll be able to.
No pressure.
I'm sure you'll be able to.
there is
No pressure.
The first question is, true or false? Iraq is the only country with a letter Q at the end in terms of in terms of countries' names. It's the only country with a letter Q at the end of the country name. True or false?
True.
Correct. Well done. Well done. What is the only country in the world with 3 capital cities?
In the world,
Yes.
I think we have 2. I don't know. We have 2, so it's definitely not us. Hey, North America. I'm kidding. I don't know. Honestly, I don't
It's
know.
South Africa.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the third?
It's Bloemfontein.
Oh wow. You see why we're confused. The world goes this way.
Question 3. What was 50 Cent's rap trio called?
Yo. I genuine chats. I'm not a hip hop fan. I'm clueless.
Understandably so. Okay, I'll change that one for you.
Yes, please.
What is the name of the group that had Beyonce and I won't say the rest?
Destiny's Child.
Alright, correct.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, name the young English royal who celebrated his birthday on the 23rd of April. I'll give you 3 options and you need to choose which one is correct.
Okay.
First being Prince Harry, Prince Charles, and Prince Louis.
I don't know the answer, so I'll link to my favorite out of the 3, Prince Harry.
Incorrect. It was Prince Louis. That is, how many questions now? It's 4 questions, you got 2 right.
Okay. I have how many more?
You have 4 more.
Okay.
So you need to just get 3 out of 4 and then you're taking over.
Okay.
What does BMW stand for?
Justice. Honest confession, I was here yesterday when that question was asked. But I thought, I know, does not apply to my life. Now look, I'm the Popeye. I don't know.
You don't know. What's the answer, Fifi?
Is it not Bavarian Motorworks?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, incorrect. So you left with 3 now, and you need to get the 3.
All 3 right.
They're not that hard, trust me. You can get them. So the next question is, when was the movie Tsotsi released?
2005.
Correct. Well done. You left with 2 now. Name the largest province in South Africa.
Northern West, Northwest,
Northwest.
Northern Cape.
Choose one. Which one is it? You need to choose one. They're both close enough, but one is right between the 2 that you mentioned.
Northern Cape.
Correct. This is to take the lead and have the best score so far. What are the 2 major ethnic groups in South Africa?
Jongaman. Where's my trophy? Where's my trophy? Zulu and Xhosa.
Correct. Well done. We have a new leader. Well done. That means you are a new leader now.
Thank you. And next time when you mention to the next guest, say Nyakallo was top.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes,
you just
the
taken
highest.
over from
Thank you.
Tiamo, who also did well. So well done, you are a leader right now. And it's been great having you. And you gave so much information that I feel us as men we need, and us as a society as a whole that we need. And I feel like I'm sure you're also going to continue, trying to educate people out there, and I hope you do so, and hopefully we get over this terrible stage that we are in as a society. And I'm sure with people like you doing what you're doing, we can definitely get over it. And Fifi, do you have anything to say?
Thank you so much for being here, Nyaki, and keep on inspiring, even if you have to post videos on social media so they can know, so they can hear what you have to say, please do it. We're doing it for our children as well, for our grandchildren, so just commit to the cause.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. Usually it's being personal. But thank you so much for having me, and this is a lovely initiative and more conversations.
Yeah, definitely. And guys, make sure that you please subscribe firstly, make sure you like, and you also give us some comments from today's episode. I feel like it will be really something important for you guys' view too on the topic at hand, which is something that we need as SA as a whole and as a society out there in the world to solve and make sure that we conquer this big demon. And I am Taz Patron, and I'm joined by Fifi, who is my co-host, and thanks a lot to Nyakallo, and this was The Partnership.